I tell you, the whole sorry tale is public record, young man. His biography, complete in every detail, is available at the library. I grunted. So how are you going to use this biography? It doesn't say how he broke the law. It's just a complete record of how he lived, and much of it is bound to be irrelevant. Okay, but I can see that it gives me another guide. I now have 3. What makes their society work well, what they never do, and what he did that they never do. Very good. These are precisely the 3 guides you have to the law we're looking for. The community of life on this planet has worked well for 3 billion years, has worked beautifully, in fact. The takers draw back in horror from this community, thinking it to be a place of lawless chaos and savage, relentless competition, where every creature goes in terror of its life. But those of your species who actually live in this community don't find it to be so. They will fight to the death rather than be separated from it. It is in fact an orderly community. The green plants are food for the plant eaters, which are food for the predators, and some of these predators are food for still other predators. And what's left over is food for the scavengers who return to the earth nutrients needed by the green plants. It's a system that's worked magnificently for billions of years. Filmmakers understandably love footage of gore and battle, but any naturalist will tell you that the species are not in any sense at war with one another. The gazelle and lion are enemies only in the minds of the takers. The lion that comes across a herd of gazelles doesn't massacre them as the enemy would. It kills one not to satisfy its hatred of gazelles, but to satisfy its hunger. And once it has made its kill, the gazelles are perfectly content to go on grazing with the lion right in their midst. All this comes about because there is a law that is followed invariably within the community. And without this law, the community would indeed be in chaos and would very quickly disintegrate and disappear. Man owes his very existence to this law. If the species around him had not obeyed it, he could not have come into being or survived. It's a law that protects not only the community as a whole, but species within the community and each individual. Do you understand? I understand what you're saying, but I have no idea what the law is. I'm pointing to its effects. Okay. It's the peacekeeping law, the law that keeps the community from turning into the howling chaos the takers imagine it to be. It's the law that fosters life for all, life for the grasses, life for the grasshopper that feeds on the grasses, life for the quail and feeds on the grasshopper, life for the quail that feeds on the grasshopper, life for the fox that feeds on the quail, and life for the crows that feed on the dead fox. The club-finned fish that knows the shores of the continent became the club-finned fish that knows the shores of the continents came into being because hundreds of millions of generations of life before them had followed this law, and some of them became amphibians following this law, and some of the amphibians became reptiles following this law, and some of the reptiles became birds and mammals following this law, and some of the mammals became primates following this law, and one branch of the primates became Australopithecus following this law, and Australopithecus became Homo habilis following this law, and Homo habilis became Homo erectus following this law, and Homo erectus became Homo sapiens following this law, and Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens sapiens following this law. And then about 10,000 years ago, one branch of the family of Homo sapiens sapiens said, man is exempt from this law. The gods never meant man to be bound by it, and so they built a civilization that flouts the law at every point. And within 500 generations, in an eye blink, in the scale of biological time, this branch of the family of Homo sapiens sapiens saw that they had brought the entire world to the point of death. And their explanation for this calamity was what? Man lived harmlessly on this planet for some 3 million years, but the takers have brought the whole thing to the point of collapse in only 500 generations. And their explanation for this is what? I see what you mean. Their explanation is that something is fundamentally wrong with people. Not that you takers may be doing something wrong, but rather there is something fundamentally wrong with human nature itself. That's right. How do you like that explanation now? I'm beginning to have my doubts about it. Good. At the time when the takers blundered into the New World and began kicking everything to pieces, the Leavers here were searching for answers to these questions. Is there a way to achieve settlement that is in accord with the law that we've been following from the beginning of time? I don't mean, of course, that they had consciously formulated this question. They were no more consciously aware of this law than early aeronauts were consciously aware of the law of aerodynamics.